Art's not sacred. It's not meant to be ogled and praised. It's meant to be read like a notebook. It's communication.
There's this deep need for artists to be the driver of their own bus. I need to be the person that is directing my story. But yeah, dude, so we are recording officially.
All right.
So, hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
This is, as you know, this is Art is Not Sacred is the name of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, we're just going to talk about what it's like being an artist in this day and age, being someone who's chosen not to live the typical 9-to-5 lifestyle, chose a creative life, and sort of what that's done for you if you're still full 100% into doing it.
Yeah.
And you know where all the trials and tribulations have come. But before that, just introduce yourself to anyone and tell us a little bit about like what you do.
Yeah.
Who you are.
Hey guys, I'm Landon Tavernier. I'm an actor and a writer. Based out of LA the last 7 years, but I'm from the Midwest, Ohio, born and raised. And yeah, I studied theater a little bit, kind of like unofficially, and then came out to New York, studied a little bit more, and then I just kind of took everything I learned from all different parts of, you know, where I grew up in New York, and then I just went out to LA.
Huh.
Yeah, there wasn't really a plan. I just knew I was struggling to decide if I wanted to go to New York or LA. Because I had a fantastic summer when I came out here. It was when I met Dylan. And I was studying at the neighborhood playhouse at the time. And I really wanted to come back to New York. And then I went back to Ohio and just kind of finalizing like my decisions. And I ended up just choosing LA because I just knew like one more person out in LA. There wasn't really like a final thing of like, oh, I have to go to LA because of this or New York because of this, like more theater or more film. That didn't really like affect my decision. I just was like, yeah, I think LA because I know one more person, and that person is a friend of mine named Jordan Besser, and he was like, dude, you could have my studio apartment for 3 months for basically free. I was like, well, that's going to get me out there. Yeah, man.
Heck
so I
yeah.
was like, I got to make a plunge, and that sounds like a fucking sign.
And so when you decided to get into acting, was that like just something that you were doing in high school and stuff that you wanted to get into later, or did you randomly just decide? Like,
I never did it in school, dude.
Oh, really?
I never did it in like high school. The backstory of that is I always try to like think about why I get into things. Everybody does. But for me, I'm like, why did I choose this? Like, what if I go deep enough? What was kind of like the influence on my life? And my mom was like a stage actress when I was like little. You know, she was doing like dinner theater professionally and stuff. Cool. And so like when me and my brother would go and see her at the shows, we'd go into the green rooms afterwards and like play with all the prop guns and costumes and stuff. And they'd always host parties there and everything like that. So I think just being around that when I was like 6, you know, obviously had some sort of subconscious influence on me. But I never like at that age, I was never like, I'm going to be an actor, you know, or I'm going to like pursue this. And then in high school, I kind of wanted to like be in a play. You know, I liked High School Musical, you know, like in junior high. Like I liked that, those movies, and everybody was kind of doing the shows in junior high and high school. I was like, oh man, that seems fun. I want to try that. And I never did. And then the girl that I really liked was like the lead in all the plays. So
it's
like,
always a girl.
It was, you know, I was always like trying to like be in a play maybe because of that, you know, but it was never a decision of mine to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to act. Until like college really. And then I was doing criminal justice, backstory on that. I trained in martial arts for 8 years with a good friend of mine, Jake Flynn. He's been training since he was like 4. And then so he brought me in to train at his school, and we became really close as training partners as well as best friends. But I always thought my path was going to be like, okay, martial arts, I've got ties in with like law enforcement, you know, from like my professors and my teachers. And so I was like, wasn't really any intentional decision to go into criminal justice. I just did it in college. I was like, yeah, that sounds like something that I should do. And then so long story short with that, I did that for like 2 years. And I remember doing these like mock trials of how to pull over a felon, like if you ever were to pull over a felon, and we'd have to like actually play that out. Like we would drive a cop car, I'd pull over a car, and you'd have to go through the correct procedures of, like toss the keys out of the window, have everybody come out of the back seat first, and then the passenger, and then the driver's last, and they walk backwards, and then you have your partner cuff them, and like playing all that out, like realistically, I was like, that was kind of fucking cool, man.
You're like, I'm acting.
I'm like, this is cool. Like, I was on the radio. I was like, get the fuck out of the back seat, just like really like milking it. And my instructor came up to me afterwards. He's like, I've been doing this for like, 20 years. And that was like one of the best examples I've seen of pulling over a felon. I was like, no shit, man. I'm like, that was fun. And then so we did another one of those where like I had to rob a bank. And I was like, dude, this is cool. And so it was kind of around that time that I was like, I'll still do criminal justice, but let me take some acting classes like while I'm here and just kind of experimenting. I wanted to do it in high school and I never did. So I feel like now is the time to just like fucking try it. And so I picked up a couple like elective courses at this community college, and I started auditioning for their productions, and I got the lead of this one. And when I did that, I kind of was like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to drop out of criminal justice completely.
Sick.
I'm just going to focus on this. Yeah, and that like the rest is kind of like history of since that moment has been kind of like the starting position of the rest of my journey, like going to New York and then coming out to LA and just pursuing it as much as I can.
Did you ever see yourself like, okay, so you were studying criminal justice just because it kind of just felt like the thing to do?
Yeah, it was kind of like the path.
Foresee like, okay, when I graduate, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be a police officer. I'm going to do this. And like, that's going to be the trajectory of my life.
Yeah. That was kind of like what I was visualizing, but there wasn't really like any thought into it.
Yeah.
It wasn't intentional. And I remember watching videos when we were like in class. I was just like watching this video of like this police officer getting killed. And I was like, what the fuck, man? Like you got to be really passionate about something like this. And I am not that. And I think I should really think about like what I actually want to do, and
it's a hell of a career to kind of fall into. Actually.
Yeah, man. Like I had like training and stuff like in combat, but outside of that, I'm just like, I don't know if I could like think about that every day, and I feel like I'd take that home with me. And I mean, it takes a very specific, special kind of person to do that shit. And I just don't think that I wanted to be a part of it in that way because it was so unintentional when I chose it.
It's such a high risk. Like, I mean, I can't fathom, my fiance, I don't think she'd be able to handle if I was going to work every day and she didn't know if I was going to come home.
Yeah, man.
Like the kind of stress of like, oh, like maybe I'll come home and maybe I won't every day. I just don't know if that's something. Like you said, you got to really be passionate about the thing that you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, man. And that kind of line of work just affects more than like the person doing it.
Yeah.
Like you said, with
it
your
affects
fiance.
everybody. Well, yeah, and everyone that you're involved with every single day. And I mean, it's a crazy lifestyle to choose. I mean, not that this lifestyle is also pretty crazy.
Yeah.
A lot more playful, but definitely pretty crazy.
Yeah, totally.
So you went to LA after Neighborhood Playhouse, which is funny because I went to William Esper Studio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
how'd you like it?
I loved it.
Yeah,
man.
I
loved it. I was a huge fan of the program. I was a huge fan of just the whole philosophy behind acting. That is Meisner.
Yeah. Did you? Because you went to Pace as well.
After.
Okay, you went to William Esper
Yeah.
first and then Pace.
Yeah. So similar, like how your mom was an actor. When you were growing up, my dad was an actor as well when I was growing up. So like, I always wanted to be an actor, but it was mostly because I have horrible ADHD, and I could never fathom doing one thing for my whole life.
Yeah.
And acting was. I remember when I was young watching a movie of, it was like firefighters and police officers and all these EMTs. There was like some big, I don't remember what movie it was, but they were all coming to this scene, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, these jobs are so intense and awesome. Maybe I want to be a police officer. Maybe I want to be a firefighter. Then there was like this huge court case in the movie, and I was like, oh, maybe I could be a lawyer. I do this. And then I realized, it was like the first time I really thought about it, where I realized, oh, all these people with all these jobs that I think are so awesome, they're all actors.
Yeah.
None of these people are those jobs. No. They're all actors. So if I'm an actor, I could do all of those jobs. Yeah. Like, that'd be so sick.
Totally.
And so I decided I wanted to do acting from a pretty young age. But I remember when I was in kindergarten, I know this story. I don't personally remember this, but my mom tells me all the time. My kindergarten teacher had to call my mom in for a parent-teacher conference, and she basically told my mom, like, hey, Mickey has a really hard time staying in his seat during class. Like, he's always getting up on his desk and talking to the other kids and whatever. And she was like, I just want you to know that that's happening, but I don't think you should be worried, because I don't think Mickey's ever going to have a desk job anyway. So it's probably going to be okay. And my mom tells that story to me all the time, because it's so clear that, like, I'm just not cut out for the 9-to-5 lifestyle, you know? But the grind of not having a 9-to-5 lifestyle is exhausting.
Very.
So what did you do when you went to LA? How did it start?
Dude, I literally grabbed the first job, whatever it was I could grab, and I just committed to it.
What was that?
It was catering.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I went to this place that is still up and running, and it's called Calamigos Ranch. It's up in Malibu. I was living in Koreatown at the time, so it was a fucking hell of a drive, you know, like, especially if you're trying to get there at 5, man. Like, sometimes it take 2.5 hours to get there. So I was committing a lot of time, but I was like, look, I just need to make money and figure out the rest. And then, so like, I just went to eat there with a friend of mine, and then I just asked them, like, you guys hiring? And they were like, yeah, we're for catering. And then I just got the interview, and I was like, okay, let me get this job, commit to it. And I ended up staying at that job for like 2 years. But it was paying well. It was paying my rent, and they were very flexible with most of the jobs out there with my schedule. Is like, okay, if I'm going to be doing a play, you know, like, that's going to be weekend stuff. Is that going to be okay? Blah, 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 blah. And my boss, we had a pretty good relationship, so she was super flexible with that. So yeah, the first thing I did was just like, I got to find a job. I need money. Any job. Anything. And then I didn't know where to start as an actor. Yeah. Going out to LA. I heard so many people's stories, you know, that people that made it, and I knew well enough just from, you know, kind of listening to other actors kind of go through it, of like, it isn't just gonna, like, I'm gonna walk into a bar and meet somebody, or a coffee shop and meet somebody. Like, I never thought that anything like that was ever gonna happen. And so, like, I went out there just kind of like, I know I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just gonna, like, start researching and, like, look up theater houses and playhouses, and just, you know, go on backstage and see what's casting, just get in a community as fast as I could. And that kind of started with, like, 2 things. I kind of took a big swing when I first got out there. There's this place, it's called the Center Theater Group out in LA. So it's kind of like the big theater in LA. So it feels like kind of like the Broadway in LA, but it's like distributed between 3 playhouses out there. And like every 6 months they hold open auditions where you come in with like monologue or whatever. So I just saw that online. I was like, I'll do that. And then so I went in and I prepared with my buddy. Just like, I did a dramatic monologue and a comedic monologue, and didn't get anything. You know, it's just like, you know, whatever. I'm just throwing myself into the fire, meeting people and getting exposure, you know, and taking it seriously. And but the casting director that day remembered me, and he was the one that like put my name into a couple other hats for a couple other plays that I ended up getting later on, which was great. Cool. But that was a smart move for me, because it just got me exposed to people that were doing it regularly, you know? That, and also doing a Fringe Festival show. Are you familiar with Fringe Festival? Yeah. Fringe Festival show. Just went on backstage and saw that there were casting for this one like two-hander, and I was like, that sounds cool, man. And so I went in and auditioned for it, ended up getting that part, and just like I remember being in my first apartment with only like my clothes I brought from home, my blanket, and the script that I was working on for that first play, and just feeling so fucking happy, man. Like I didn't know where it was gonna go. This was like my first month in LA, and I'm like, cool, I got a job. I have this little play. That was a big deal for me because I was like, I get something to work on, and I have a roof. Like that's great. In the first month,
I'm doing it.
I hit the ground fucking running.
Yeah.
And so the first things I did was find a job, check, and then where can I start finding like-minded community? Check, and then apartment, check, and then I just kind of like let that feed me into open other doors for me. That casting director introduced me to another casting director, and then the second casting director cast me in another show, and then that was such a big show with all these other cast members. I was like, okay, cool, I'm part of all these other artists and all these other people, and then they would tell me about things, and then it just kind of like started to blossom ever so slightly, just in a small community. And like, because in LA, man, and maybe it's like this in New York too, it's like everybody kind of knows everybody. Everybody's doing something. Everybody's working on something because it's like community of artists all around, like in New York and LA specifically. Yeah. Everybody floods to those places because that's where it's at.
Yeah.
So like once you're kind of like in a pool, it feels very small, honestly.
Huh.
Yeah. Does that feel like it out here?
I don't know, because I feel like, a lot of people on the East Coast. Sorry, I have cat hair all over my hands now because this cat won't get off my lap.
Sorry, am I talking like super fast too?
No, dude. Okay. Talk at the pace you talk, man. I feel like a lot of East Coast artists have this feeling about LA that, I've only been to LA like 3 times.
Yeah.
And I like it a little bit. I haven't fallen in love with it. And what I've always kind of felt, and I think it's a pretty common feeling for East Coast artists, is that like everyone in LA is really nice and really fake. It feels a lot like everyone is only interested in knowing you if they find out that you can help them in some way.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone in New York, the artist community in New York, everyone is like pretty, generally like pretty intense or mean, but really honest. And they're not trying to use you for their career. They're like trying to help you with yours. Like, or at least that's the feeling I get in New York, where like everyone in the community, the artist community here, be it acting, because I'm an actor, but I'm also a painter. So like I spend a lot of time with painters and artists and visual medium artists a lot, and they're always like trying to help you with whatever project you're doing.
That's cool.
Which is, I don't know if that's the same in LA. I've always felt like it's not, but I just haven't given it a fair shot. Yeah,
I think for me, with the people that I've surrounded myself with, it's kind of more of what you explained New York is like. Yeah.
That's cool.
And I don't know, maybe I don't know. It's so funny because a friend of mine sent me this video on Instagram about like if people in LA were just honest at parties, and was like, hi, are you an agent? Or hi, can you help me fund my project? And then they're like, no, okay, bye. Cut through the bullshit kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it is still like this sense of like, you're only going to these parties to see if it's all
to network and yeah.
So a lot of it is that.
And is it like, because I feel, there's always that difficult thing when you're doing what we're doing, which is like building a career.
Yeah.
We're still in the process of creating what will hopefully eventually blossom into a self-sustaining career as an artist.
Yeah.
But when you're building it, there's all these lulls where you're in between projects and you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything that's like, the question that every artist hates, where it's like, oh, like what would I know you from, or like what are you doing now? Like what's your project now? And you're like, right now I'm catering, dude. Or like right now I'm working in this thing, or I'm just figuring it out.
Yeah.
And if people were, like you said in that video you saw, like if people were just honest about like, I'm not going to say anything that's not true to try and impress you or
Yeah.
like vaguely try to tell you how I'm relevant or why you should talk to me, other than that I'm a really hard worker, I'm really cool to hang around with, and I would love to be a part of a project that you're working on.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier to find people that actually do want to build, because you're not going to do it alone.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
no one,
No.
almost no one breaks into this kind of industry or builds this kind of lifestyle by themselves.
No.
You have to find people that will pull you up when their tide is rising, and that you want to pull up when yours is rising. Because it's at the end of the day, like, if you're not a community when you are ready to exit the community,
Yeah.
then you used everyone. Like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What is the rising tide raises all ships kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that mentality, I mean, I think it's just it's necessary for us to find the kind of community with people that genuinely want you to succeed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I've come to find like more recently, I'm fucking always learning on like how I work in this career. You know, like I spent a lot of time of like, what are they doing? What are they doing? How are they doing it? And now like a lot more recently, I'm just like, I gotta like fucking shut all that out.
Yeah.
And just be like, how am I doing it right now? Like, what am I doing? And how do I feel what I'm doing is going to get me to the next thing, or express something that I actually want to express, not just because it's going to like be cool. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm just like, so I've kind of come to find where the more I'm just honest with people, kind of from the get, you know,
Yeah.
like I went to a movie premiere recently, and I got to talk to this producer, and I just kind of waited around just to like talk to him, but it wasn't like hey man, like I'm doing this thing, can you, it was just very much like, hey man, like I like what you did here, I would love to like, you know, get a cup of coffee with you and just like throw some ideas around, like pick your brain and just like whatever, even if we just end with like a cool conversation. I just want to like kind of understand a little bit more and like get inspired, and like because it's just from an honest place, he like, I feel like he sensed that, and he was like, dude, just come by the office, we'll get a cup of coffee and we'll like hang out.
Hell yeah.
And I'm like,
that's
dude,
sick.
yeah, like once I just like kind of started to, and I'm still working on it, cutting, like getting over the bullshit of just being like sending the perfect email, or how am I supposed to word this with this guy, you know, and like what have they done, and how am I supposed to, you know, have this kind of energy when I'm talking to them. Like I'm just like, God, it's so exhausting, man.
Yeah.
I just want to like genuinely be like, I like your work, and I would love to at some point, like, can we talk? Like, let's just like have an actual conversation.
And be like how do I figure out who I am in this?
Yeah.
And what I am trying to say in
Yeah.
the work that I'm doing, instead of trying to like say the right thing or be the right person to make you interested in wanting to talk to me.
Yeah.
It's like the more, and it's so hard with social media and all this stuff, and like how you represent yourself publicly.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you just saw the thing that Maya Hawke just, this video of Maya Hawke in an interview is like circulating right now, where she
which one?
talks about how like when she is going to be on a project, they require a certain number of followers.
Oh, yeah, dude.
You saw this?
I had that happen once.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was-
Well, she was like, if you get rid of your Instagram and you don't have the following that you have as Maya Hawke,
Yeah.
then we have to hire all these other people that have more followers, because we have a quota we have to hit to like maintain our budget or whatever for how many followers we have to have on the project.
Bro.
And it's like, okay, so you're saying that I have to have my own organic audience that is big enough to justify you letting me be in this project, despite the years of training,
Yeah.
and the talent and the skill and the dedication that I have to this craft. In order to be a part of it, I have to bring my own audience.
Yeah.
So that so you don't have to worry as much about like how many people are going to see it.
Isn't
And
that
it's
sick?
I mean, it's exhausting
Yeah.
to think that like all of the work that I do as an actor, as an artist, all the work that you do as an actor, it boils down really to like how many social media followers do I have?
I know, man. I know.
What was the time that it happened to you?
It was kind of like early, but I just remember like submitting myself for this audition, and um, they like approved it, and I think I got sent the sides. But then like the director reached out and was like, "Hey, actually, we're only accepting people with like it wasn't Instagram followers, it was Star Meter on IMDb, but same kind of concept." Where he was like, "You have to be like above like 25,000 like on in the like whatever that is." And I was like, "Oh." Now I straight up like emailed back. I was like, "I feel like it's kind of shitty that like you were looking at that over like giving me a chance to like show you what I can actually bring to it." And then he like emailed back and very prideful about it and just be like, "You don't understand how this business works," and blah 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 blah. And I was like, "Whoa, sounds like I don't want to work with you actually," you know.
I think that's the best way to handle it.
But
It's like, know your worth.
But I'm just like, you didn't even give like a person a shot just based off of a fucking number.
Well, it's like, okay, you're telling me that I don't understand how this business works, but this business is built off of people doing what I do.
Right.
You can't do what you're trying to do if you don't have people like me doing it.
Yeah.
And you can get someone who's really popular on TikTok and has, I don't know, 500,000 followers on their own platform, and then you put them in a movie doing a thing that they don't do, at least haven't spent the amount of time that I've spent doing it. And like maybe it'll be beneficial for this project, but they're not going to work again. It's not going to be a long-term like return for you.
It'll get
unless you use people that actually know what they're doing.
It'll get views, cool, you know.
Yeah,
but like
exactly.
that's it.
But
really.
Like, and is that what it boils down to now?
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Like, is that what you're trying to get is views?
Yeah,
like,
man.
So when did you find out? And this is maybe there's an assumption in this question, but like,
sure.
At what point after starting this this acting journey did you sort of find out that the romanticism of being an actor, being an artist, like wasn't quite what you thought it was?
I think I romanticize everything, you know.
Yeah, me too.
So like I still kind of like am always like I still feel like when I get like an audition, I'm like, this is the audition, you know. This is
this
it.
is the one.
This is, man, you know. But it's kind of still more like recent where I'm just like, man, this is like kind of, this is a fucking job. And I try to remind myself that often, you know, like it is a job. And to kind of like, because when I was a kid, I would like watch these movies and I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool to do something like that. Like, and it wasn't like, oh, I want to be an actor. I was just like, I want to be in that world. You know, I want to be in that movie. I want to experience what those people are experiencing. I want to be in that park in Central Park in Manhattan, you know, like, and have like a brick apartment. Like, I want that lifestyle, you know? So it was very like romantic, like with the whole thing. And then once you start getting on a set and they're like, all right, you ready? We got to get this shot. And then like you sit down in the couch and I'm like, I don't feel like this is my apartment. You know, like I don't feel like I'm in New York. And I'm like, so kind of more like, I don't know. I've been in LA for 7 years and I think about maybe half that time I was like, fuck, man, is it ever going to feel like the job that I'm doing is my life? Like the story that I'm telling actually is my life. And I think we could try to get
When am I Daniel Day-Lewis?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we could, you know, that's kind of ultimate goal. I was thinking about that actually on the plane of like, will I ever feel that? And I think, I don't know if, I mean, yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis probably feels that, but I think that's the ultimate goal is like what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to feel like I'm in that lifestyle or I'm like actually living that character, but like it's kind of impossible because you're always like cutting in the middle of the scene and then like there's lights everywhere, like you can't not see everything. You know, like you can pretend it's not there and like really train and like just focus on the camera and your partner and listen, but in real life like everything is, it's not what you think it is. You know, and that's kind of why I like theater so much is because
because it really is for you.
You do the thing, you know, you do the whole story. You ride that momentum, you ride those feelings, you hit those moments, you do start to finish. And if you fuck up, you got to figure it out like you do in real life, and then the next day you could do it again if you want.
Yeah.
You know? Film is not that.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I feel like I had the same sort of misconception when I wanted to get into film initially, and I was making films, and then I was acting in films, and I was trying to like find that thing where like I as an audience member, I get immersed into a story and into a world, and it's so convincing, and I believe it so much. And then when I'm the actor and I'm on the set and I'm doing it, I don't like I lose the gift that I'm giving to the audience. And you have to accept at some point, I think, as an actor, that like, oh, the magic of the story that I'm telling is not for me to experience. I am creating it, but the sacrifice that I make is that I'll never get to experience this story the way the audience gets to experience this story, because I'm making it. I know how the sausage is made, kind of thing, you know. And I feel sometimes I feel bad for actors that I really love when they're in one of my favorite shows or one of my favorite movies, and I'm like, I feel like you don't get to experience this show the way that I got to experience it. And you never will, because you were there. Yeah. So you're seeing a scene that I'm immersed in, and you remember, even watching it after, you remember what was behind the camera that day. You remember what you had for lunch at Kraft, and like, so you never will get to see what I see. And it's kind of like it's a service that you're giving as an artist. That like, it's different in theater, because the audience gets to watch it, and you respond to the audience in a lot of ways, but you really are doing it for you and for the people on stage with you in that moment. Like everything is gone and you're just there.
It's great. It's the best feeling, for real.
I haven't done theater in a long while.
Oh man, you should do it again.
I know. I
You're
would
in
love
New
to.
fucking York, man.
I
You
know.
gotta get out there and get on a stage, man.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've done theater.
Oh, theater, it's the best, man. And I learned really quickly that what you were talking about as far as like experiences as an actor telling the story or serving the story, you don't get to experience it how an audience is going to experience it, you know, like but what I found was like doing theater or doing like a long shoot, like the family that you get to make on set or you know, on stage, if you're doing a project for like a month or even more, that I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like I get to come to a set, or I get to act every day, and I get to hang out with these awesome people. That I kind of learned quickly, and like now every time I go into a show, or as long as I'm like not a day player, if it's something that's like prolonged a little bit more, I always come in and I'm like, oh fuck, I know I'm gonna miss these people when I leave.
Oh dang.
And then I always do, you know, and I always have a hard time letting things go, because I'm just like, oh, everybody was just so close, I miss it, and I want to keep it going. But I'm like, but it's a time, you know.
Yeah,
it's
it has its
but
end.
it's beautiful, you know.
Yeah.
Like as actors, we get to experience that. I heard Jake Gyllenhaal talking about that kind of same thing when they did Everest. He was like, yeah, it was that movie where they all climb Everest.
Makes sense.
You know, I think Brolin was in it,
named.
and a lot of other great actors. I can't remember everybody right now, but he was speaking about it. He was like, yeah, we don't get that experience, but you know, like the audience will never get the experience we got because of like all the nights that we stayed up and like telling stories and hanging out and like doing the training and like getting up on that mountain, like all this stuff behind the scenes nobody else will experience but us. And I'm like, that's like your own story, which is cool.
So
you know?
what is it that you would say about being an actor that still keeps you doing it despite all of the shit you have to deal with and the hustle and the grind and the exhausting like day in and day out of like, I'm an actor but I'm also working at, you know, a coffee shop, or I'm also doing catering, or I'm also doing whatever, and it's like, all right, when, like, what is the, you know, because there's a point where it's so tempting to be like, okay, I'm 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in love with this girl.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to give her a life and a house and a whatever, and I want a stable job. Like, when do I just say, all right, the dream is done. I need to like grow up and get a job and have a salary and do the thing.
Yeah.
But we just keep saying no every time.
Yeah.
What is it that keeps you saying no?
I don't know, man. I think that's a really good question. I think it's, for me, why I keep doing it is different from why I got into it. Like, I feel like every year, even every moment, every project, there's different reasons why I stay in. There's like a new reason that I'm just like, oh man, that felt really good. Like, I was able to express something. And then like the next project was like, oh, I wasn't able to really express anything, but I had a really cool conversation with that person. I feel like it exposes us to, like, just, and not to sound like cheesy or anything, but just truth. You know, it exposes us to truth, like with other people, like our experiences, like behind the scenes, or just a truthful moment in a story that you're a part of, you know?
Yeah.
And it's every time like I do something, say I'm acting in a scene, and might even just be in a rehearsal, but you get a moment where you're just like, oh, I actually heard what you said, and I'm gonna respond this way. And even that moment, that was like afterwards, you're kind of like, oh, I heard you. Like, that is kind of even worth it, to where it's like, that was like such a true moment. I want more of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like we do this to be more human, you know? Like, I feel like we're all artists are searching for human experiences, or like an expression, or a communication that we're trying to like transmit to everybody, because like we get so caught up in words, you know, and like the daily routine of everything. And I think that gets in the way of a lot of truth underneath everything, you know. And I think art is kind of just like the real expression of trying to communicate. You know, we were kind of talking about when I was just in Rome, you know, and I was looking at like all this stuff, like the Colosseum or the Sistine Chapel. I was just like, whoa, this is art, you know? But it's also like history. It's also a story that they told these stories in like the catacombs, or in these paintings, you know. And then like 1,500 years later, like we're reading these stories, or we're looking at these stories, and we're getting like a piece of history from, like, it's basically a time capsule from so long ago that these people back in like 500 AD are trying to tell. And it's almost like they're telling us in a way. I feel like I'm going on kind of a small tangent.
No, I
but
totally
like that's
agree.
kind of what I was thinking about when I was in Rome, was, whoa, like, did they think in, you know, 1,500 years somebody would be like looking at their shit?
Yeah.
Or not?
It's funny that you say that, because I remember when I wrote my high school English class thesis about being remembered, about like this feeling of leaving legacy.
Yeah.
And I still think about it all the time, because I remember these like very significant moments in my childhood where, you know, I remember once my parents and my sister and I went to Niagara Falls, and I had this like sort of gut impulse. I don't remember really deciding to do it. I just kind of did it, and I did it all the time in different places. But I picked up some rock. We were like in a cave going out to the edge of Niagara Falls, like looking at the side. And I picked up some rock, and like I scratched my name into the side of the rock. And I did that one time. We were on some school trip in like DC, and I did it on the side of a rock in a park. And like when I was a kid, I used to write my name like in the side of trees, like in the bark, and try and like scratch it in. And I did it because I was like, all right, I know that I was here. And I can prove it now because other people will know that I was here.
Yeah.
And as an artist, you know, there's so many lives that have been lived and died throughout history that like we'll never know anything about.
Yeah.
You know, a farmer in 1600 that lived out his days and had his family and died on his ranch, and we'll never know anything about it because he didn't write anything down. He didn't make paintings. He didn't do whatever. So there's no record of this legacy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's super, self-involved or whatever to have this impulse. I think it's just human. But to every time I create something, be it a new painting, or a film or whatever it is, it's this little catharsis of like, okay, I know that I existed because if I didn't, this wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And who knows what it'll happen to it after I'm gone, but I know that it exists.
Yeah.
And it only exists because I did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you're
this leaving your
making
marks.
meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like this weird. I have had so many moments in my life after choosing to do this crazy freaking lifestyle of being a creative and being an artist and not having any like stable job. I've tried to do the normal job, and I stopped immediately after like 2 months.
Yeah,
I would stop because it's like,
what was your normal job?
I just took a job.
Yeah.
Like in the end of December, I took a job that was offered out of the blue, seemed pretty cool, and it was going to give me a salary, and I've never had one.
Yeah.
I was like, this maybe I'll try it. I'm getting married. Like I can try this thing and maybe it'll work out. And I did it for 2 months. I was working as a facilitator for an automotive company, basically teaching managers and sales executives how to have interpersonal skills, like improve their interpersonal skills to like manage their teams better or like talk to clients better and whatever.
Yeah.
But I was flying around the country to facilitate these courses.
Oh shit.
But I don't know anything about the automotive industry, and I was kind of thrust into this space where I kind of had to speak their language in order to speak mine.
Yeah.
So I'm like studying about cars, and I'm studying about the automotive industry and
Yeah.
service department and the whatever. And the moment that I remember the most was like I was sitting on the plane, heading to Atlanta with a blazer on, with my work laptop out on the plane, and I was reading like a financial graph for the service department of this dealership in the automotive space, and I was sitting there like, who am I right now? Like this is so not me.
Yeah.
And I got home and was like, I don't care how much comfort and stability this will provide me. I know that I can pay my rent. I know that I can pay my this and all that. And I know that like maybe if I save in a couple of years, I'll be able to get a house. And
Right.
But I every day I'm sitting and being like, what did I make today that like fed me?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I feel like I can't not spend my life trying to make something that feeds the soul. You know, like you were saying, those cathartic little moments, those little tiny moments you get on stage or whatever. That's just like, wow, I feel like I was present.
Yeah.
And you were present.
Exactly.
And we were here right now, and nothing else mattered. And that is like such an addictive feeling.
It is, man.
You know?
It really is.
Makes me think like, are artists just like addicts?
Yeah, for real.
Like just looking for the fix at all times.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a weird thing. Has there ever been a moment where you were truly like, you know what, fuck it. Like I'm just gonna go corporate. I'm just gonna get a job and stop doing this crazy thing.
I mean, I think, oh man, like there's been ebbs and flows for sure, man. There'll be times where I'm like, I'm working as an actor and I don't have to worry about anything else. And then there'll be like a long spread of like 6 months where I haven't done anything. And I'm like, is this it? Do I just get a job? Because financially it's very fucking stressful right now, you know?
Yeah.
And then, but like what you were talking about, like I need something that feeds, you know, my soul. But yeah, so like there'll be times where, sorry, what was your question?
Has there ever been a moment where like you just decided like, fuck it.
Oh yeah.
I don't need to do this so badly that I'm going to ruin my future.
Yeah.
Chasing this dream.
So with all of what I just said into now, I don't think I ever seriously like sat down and been like, okay, it's time to do the thing that I don't want to do anymore, you know? But it's definitely crossed my mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not, I've never like seriously sat down and be like, okay, I got to do this now. and give up on what I want to do. Never like seriously thought about it like that, but it has crossed my mind in moments of like doubt or questioning, like, is this really happening or anything like that, to where, you know, some thoughts might be like, okay, what job can I get that can kind of like balance it out, where like I'm doing this one job so I like can pay rent and then also doing this other thing. But I've realized recently, at least for me, like I can't do both, because what you were explaining was like, you got this job, you know, and you're on the plane to Atlanta, and like that's taken up a lot of your time, man.
Oh,
you know,
yeah, it was a
mentally and artistically and soulfully. And like I just work a side coffee job, you know, and I was working full time, and I'm like, I don't have time to fucking, and like I don't have time to write. You know, I
Yeah.
don't have time to like audition.
You get home and you're exhausted.
And then I realized I'm in LA doing more coffee work than the shit that I came out to do. And I'm like, holy hell. Like when it gets to that moment, then I got to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. What did you come out here to do?
Yeah.
You know? And if anything else is like, I was going to say trumping that, but whatever. If anything else is trumping that, then it's not fucking good.
Yeah.
Then you need to go back to Ohio at that point.
Yeah, like I can work in a coffee shop in Ohio.
Exactly.
And not pay the exorbitant amounts of money that I'm paying to do it here.
So I had that thought, and I was like, okay, I'll go down to part-time, and it's going to be a pay cut, but like I need my time to create.
Yeah,
you
to
know?
build
Exactly.
something. I mean, I think that there's this deep need for artists to be the sort of the driver of their own bus.
You have
You
to,
know,
man.
and like, there's a lot of people that I know are very happy and content working for somebody else, and they
Oh,
make a
100%.
lot of money doing it, and it's great.
Yeah.
I just can't, like, I need to be the person that is directing my story,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know where it's going to go, and it feels super unstable all the time, and
Yeah.
I don't know how long I'll be able to do it for.
Yeah.
But I know that when I'm doing it, I'm the happiest that I
Yeah.
ever am. You know?
Totally. Yeah.
It's worth the exhaustion. Yeah, man. I don't know. It's just an addicting freaking lifestyle.
Yeah.
What do you think people say, or what is like the biggest misunderstanding you think that people have about the work ethic that's required to be an artist?
Oh. I think a big misconception is maybe this is just what, I don't know. I think some people might think like it's a lazy lifestyle, you know? And I think that's kind of a misconception because, I mean, I come from Ohio where it's a very like working class, blue collar kind of like town, and at least in my upbringing, and I'm like kind of the first person that's like, okay, like I got to do construction, I got to get a job, I got to make money, and then I can do the thing. But and then I think my perspective from how I was growing up was like, oh, like you can't handle like a job, you know what I mean? And you're just working on like what you want to work on, like, yeah, but you got to like make a living, you know what I mean? So I think there's this common misconception of like that's being lazy, when actually it's not, because I mean, like take my life for example, like being out in LA, like it's a fucking grind. So like I gotta like work this other job, which I have no problem doing. You know, it's keeping me out there, and I'm thankful for it. But I gotta like set priorities straight. Like, what am I creating something? So like I'm working this side job. I'm traveling this other second side job, and then I'm also like trying to write and start like this little production company, and then also find time to audition, also find time to be consistent in my acting, whether that's taking a class or going to go see a play or just being surrounded by it. And like there's only 24 hours in a day, and also like you got to have 8 hours of sleep, man, or you're going to be exhausted. You're not going to be healthy. So like you got to have all these things, and it takes a lot of fucking discipline.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of discipline to be like, okay, I'm going to set my schedule. And so like I quickly learned that it's, you know, kind of more of like a working class, almost blue collar grind to be an artist.
Yeah.
You know, and not just this kind of like, oh, I'll just sit here and paint and money will come to me, you know, kind of thing. you know? So I feel like some people might have a misconception about that kind of idea within an artist.
Yeah.
I think. Have you
No,
ever
for
thought about
sure.
that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that like, and this is the question that I think about all the time because as a painter, different from acting, where you get this sort of resounding catharsis when you're actually getting to act, which is often few and far between.
Yeah.
It's not every day that you get to actually do the thing that you love to do, which is one of the reasons that I really started taking painting more seriously was because
Yeah.
I can do that whenever I want
Control
to.
that.
But you don't get that like moment of like, oh wow, that was such an incredible thing because you're by yourself when you do it most of the time.
Yeah,
and so you show the work, and it's just a different experience.
Yeah.
But what I think about a lot is like, am I being selfish as an artist, choosing to live this artistic lifestyle? Am I being selfish in that I'm not contributing to my community the way that I could if I was working at a nonprofit, or if I was building a business that creates a product that people really need, or if I was doing things that could actually, being a lawyer and getting people out of prison, or like doing something that really makes an impact. And I think all the time, like, is what I'm doing important enough to justify me not doing something that would make a strong direct impact in other people's lives?
What?
And,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry.
No.
No, you go.
Sorry. But to speak on that, I'm
Yeah.
like, it made me think of like the example, like, you're on a plane, right? And like pressure in the cabin goes out or a door flies open, and the door was like, put the mask over yourself first before you like help somebody else, and I feel like that's kind of like what it is as an artist. Like, we're expressing ourselves and we're trying to like figure out who we are first. And I feel like by doing that, it's inspiring others, whether it's a piece of art or anything. We're not doing it to just be like, hey, look at my art, be inspired. It's just very much like, I'm going to live truthfully for myself. And I think that breeds honesty and truthfulness like out into the world.
Yeah.
So I think the world needs artists,
Yeah.
and I think the only way to do that is to kind of look inward first, and then to kind of like blossom that outwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of like with the plane thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's what I come down to every time I feel that way is kind of always this like, when I'm feeling my lowest and I'm feeling really lost and I'm feeling like I don't have any clear direction and money's not coming in and I don't know how long I can sustain this, and the depression creeps in, all the stuff that people experience when they're living. The thing that always makes me feel better is art.
Yeah.
It's when I can stand in front of a beautiful painting and feel inspired for hours. Going to a museum, I look around, or a gallery, and I look around and I'm like, wow, like this, somebody touched this. This like came out of someone's soul, and they poured something in themselves that I don't know out onto this canvas, and now it's communicating with me in a way I didn't try to do or expect. I stand in front of a painting and think like, this is making me feel something that I did not come in here feeling.
Yeah.
And it's always the thing that makes me feel better is other people's work, other people's art.
Yeah.
And so I try to remind myself all the time that when I'm making art, it's very possible, if not probable, that someone else is going to experience that thing that saves them on a bad day.
Yeah.
The same way that I do when I look at it. I surround my whole home is filled with art, mine and other people's everywhere, because I need it. Like, I need that thing, Mm-hmm. But yeah, you were going to say something. I'm sorry. I didn't.
No, yeah. With that, it's like we're adding to the voice of that.
Yeah.
All together, like collectively, and I like, for me, I've found if I were to like pursue something else, say like a regular like 9 to 5, or if I were to keep going as like a police officer or something, I don't know if it would make me like ask the same questions about like life, like acting has gotten me like out of my comfort zone and like a little bit more into like my childlike self again, to where I'm actually having like conversations that like change the way I think or make me have like a different perspective on something, or like challenge my thoughts, or you know, brings up like an emotion, and that's super healthy as like just a human being. It makes you just be more of a human.
Yeah.
Like kind of like this pursuit that we're kind of taking on. At least for me, it's like when I'm writing something or I'm acting in something, it's really challenging my thoughts to be like, what's this person thinking and why is he thinking that? And then it's like giving me empathy, you know? And like maybe it wasn't something that I had like growing up, and like I'm making or growing new feelings in myself to make me more human, you
Yeah.
know? Like honestly, that's what it really, I feel like, comes down to for me specifically right now in my journey. Like I said, there's always different reasons throughout my journey why I stay in this, and right now I think that's like a big one.
Is it's making you connect to your
Yeah.
the most like primal human part of you that
Yeah.
I like that, because I've always had like a really big issue with the, you know, and tell me if you agree or vehemently disagree with this, but I've met so many actors who say like, I was born to do this, I was born to be an actor, this is like who I am, and blah blah, and in my head I've always been like, if the acting industry never existed, you still would have been born, and you would have been something else. So I don't think you were born to do this. I think that you found that it's doing something for you that you really, really like, and you want to do it, but you were born to be a human being.
Yeah.
You found this.
Yeah.
But when you make the thing that you do your identity and believe that this is the reason you were put on this planet, then it turns into something that, if that goes away for whatever reason in your life, be it a tragedy or something happens where you are forced into a place of responsibility for a family member or something, and you can't do this job anymore, you're going to lose a piece of yourself if you believe that this is who you are.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so I've always had this issue with people who believe like, this is what I was meant to do. You know?
Yeah. I think it's more like, what is it in the world that you find as a vehicle to be just like your most honest self? You know?
I love that.
You know, whether it's like for you, like with these paintings and drawings that you do, like you're probably just like experiencing like a flow that's like connecting you more to yourself in that moment, and you're understanding more about you and like what you like, and it's an expression, you know,
and a mirror.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And it's like, that's different for everybody, whether it's like, oh, I'm an actor, or I'm a writer, I'm a painter, I do poems, I do spoken word, you know, I'm a filmmaker, anything. I mean, that could even, my dad's a bricklayer, he's been doing it, and like if that's like his thing, you know, like he's laying bricks, and you know, he's like designing what the wall looks like, kind of thing. Like it's kind of whatever it is that you find, I think, along like your upbringing and stuff. But yeah, the whole born thing is,
I just don't believe people were born to do anything in particular. I think that we're here and we have to create meaning out of what is effectively meaningless, unless you choose to find it. I mean, you're gonna be born. You're going to live some kind of life, and then you're going to die. People are either going to remember you or they're not. And even if they do, eventually no one will anymore. And so the significance that you put into your life in the day-to-day is the significance that is going to be what your life amounts to, you know? And it's not like building something large. It's about spending every single day doing something that makes you feel like being here was worth it.
Yeah.
And if that's acting, if that's painting, if that's being a lawyer, if it is whatever it is, then do that thing. But any moment that you're not doing it, and if you can feel that, like that disconnect, that discordance in the energy that you're having with like, I'm spending time doing this thing that it's not giving me anything. Then stop doing it. Don't do that thing,
exactly.
You know?
I wanted to ask you actually, because I was just talking about like your paintings and stuff, and when you, because you do a lot of these, and the camera, or can the camera see? I don't know.
I don't know. A little bit.
But if they're watching you, they know what you're capable of and
Yeah.
your art that you
Definitely
you
a
have
bunch of
up.
different styles. That's for sure.
But when you're making something like that that's hanging on your wall, does this come from like an idea you have, or is this like all of a sudden you're like, I need to just get kind of lost in a flow state, and you just kind of go?
Yeah, those pieces, that style, like I have a couple different styles of paintings that I like to do depending on how I'm feeling. But those ones are all completely like stream of consciousness.
Sick.
Yeah, so nothing is planned, nothing is
Sick, dude.
I like kind of draw, and then those ones in particular are very much like, so the faces are supposed to represent like the ugly thoughts in your head. Like I kind of like giving faces to the negative thoughts that you have in your head to externalize them.
Yeah.
And then I just put myself in a mental space of like, these are all the things, all my self-doubts, all my insecurities, all the things I don't like about myself, all the ugly shit that happens in my head. Get it out, put it on something else, and turn it into something that I can like, and something I can look at objectively.
Damn.
You know? So like when you think a thought, I don't know, let's find one. Like there's one that says, I don't know how I feel because I have poor emotional vocabulary. That's a thought I think about all the time. It's like, why can't I fully determine what it is that I'm experiencing in here?
Yeah.
Do I not have the words for it?
Yeah.
Have I not searched deeply enough to be able to articulate what this sense is that I'm having?
Yes.
And if I look at it while it's just a thought racing through my head, it's really subjective. And then I'll start feeling bad about myself that I can't figure it out. And I'm down on myself. And I'm like, you stupid idiot. Like, why can't you figure out this? Something's wrong and you're not doing anything about it. But if I put it out on a canvas and I can read it, then I can look at it objectively. It's not like a shitty thought in my head anymore. It's just like a
you get
cool
it out.
idea out here. So those style of pieces are very much all that.
Dude, that's
It's
really
like
cool,
working
man.
with your emotional whatever.
Yeah.
you know? But that's like, I mean, I've said a million times on other podcasts and whatever, like I don't paint because it makes me happy or because I love it. Like I do it because I feel like I would be a worse person if I didn't do it. Like it is the thing that makes me feel like a decent person.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
it's my
yeah,
therapy.
yeah. It's a true outlet.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
a
an actual
full-on-
outlet.
Yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
just gives me the peace for that moment in the chaos of life.
Yeah.
You know, the opportunity. But yeah, and I imagine acting does that for you.
Yeah, I think acting does that for me when I'm like, when I have a good script, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, I did this play. It's called Famous. I did it. It was like, it took up 6 months of my life in 2019, and it was fucking awesome, man. It was like, it was a script. It was like an actor's dream when I first got out there. It was a play. It was with some really cool people around my age. It was in California. It was a story with meaning. And it was, you know, it was a little dark, but I like drama. So I'm just like, you know, this is what I want to do. But I remember like getting that play and being like, oh, this is a great script. I'd love to do this. And then just going in and like being like, I have to like get this role because I want to work on this. And then it wasn't until like people started coming up to like the cast afterwards and like talking about like how it affected them. And I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, this is like shit. And at that moment, that's when my mind switched. I'm like, oh, fuck, this is why I want to do this now. It's because it's speaking something. It's like saying something. And I'm just a part of that. Like, and I get to be a part of some honest truth that, you know, like is moving somebody. Not that I'm like, I want to move you. It was just very much like, we're all part of this one thing that is sending a message to somebody's heart and making them think about something. I'm like, that's why I want to keep doing something like this.
Yeah.
And so in those moments, yes, when I have like a meaningful script and it's like kind of like a stream of consciousness, and it like, it's my outlet when it's something like that. But then like there's some other things that come along where you're like, you do because you just got to do. And You know,
I
it like
know.
helps the resume, or you know, it pays the bills for a second. You know,
Yeah.
you don't really feel good about it, but you do it because it's work. You know,
Yeah, I mean, there have been auditions I've turned down because I'm just like, I just don't think I can do this one. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't want to. Like, you know, I'll get some commercial audition for a pharmaceutical company, and I'm like, I don't feel comfortable
Yeah.
representing this thing. And then
Yeah.
I'll get one that it's like, will you play the voice of the sandwich at this thing? And I'm like, yeah. It's not going to do anything for me emotionally, but like, I will. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll do the
exactly.
voice of the sandwich in this commercial, this for a sandwich shop.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
hold on. Can we pause for 1 second? I have to pee so bad.
Do it, man.
But
do
I don't
it.
want to stop yet. I just
No,
have to pee
no.
so bad.
No, all
We're
good.
gonna hold. Oh, because I'm
Take
trying
a
to
quick,
stand, sit
take a
still.
quick 5.
Yeah, take a quick 2 minutes.
I'm gonna lean back.
We're back, everybody. I had to.
We are
pee
back.
And get some beers. Talk about art that I like. These are the things that give me joy with art.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite things I own. It is. I don't even remember where I got him. It's this little dude. I think I got him at a tiny like, what do you call it? Not a thrift store, but like an antique shop or something in Pennsylvania. It is a bottle opener.
Oh, sick, man.
Butler. And I got it.
Look at
I
that.
found it. I collect bottle openers. I freaking love bottle
Hell,
openers.
oh, that's good to know.
But I collect these little bottle openers.
Thank you, sir.
And the amount of like love and joy and attention to detail that went into this tiny little thing.
Yeah, man.
Every time I use it, it gives me so much joy.
Dude,
And
that's
he just
nice.
lives on the table as like a little. He's like a beer stein waiter or something at some German restaurant. I don't know what he is.
Oh man, that's sick. Yeah,
But I love
you
him.
could tell like this is old.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
But
like
it's this kind of stuff that like someone made that, man.
Exactly.
And now it lives in my home, and I smile every time I see it.
and they don't make shit like this anymore.
Mm-mm.
They don't make anything like this anymore.
They don't. I made a beer bottle opener.
Yeah.
That's in the other room. I'll show it to you.
Mm-hmm.
It was inspired by that one because I never thought about making.
See, art inspiring. Oh, whoa! You made that?
Yeah, this is Valo. I carved him out of wood and then drilled a hole in his head and shoved this thing in there.
Oh, Jesus!
But yeah, this is Valo.
he
Here's
just whittled that.
Yeah, dude. I talking about trying to like make
That's a good grip.
this career or this like thing we love to do an actual career.
Yeah.
I especially with the social media stuff and all that. You know, I'm always trying to figure out like, okay, how can I spend my life making the things that I love to make, but also making things that people actually would want to have. Nobody needs my paintings. No one needs them. So, and some people will, and I'll never stop making them. But like bottle openers, people will get. Like,
Yeah.
I can make art that someone will actually use. It has like a use.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or I'm learning to make leather bags now.
Oh,
that
sick.
I've been doing, and like trying to figure out like, okay, how do I turn this into something people will actually buy?
Yeah.
And it's the most exhausting thing to figure out like how to satisfy the itch, the creative impulse that you have as an artist, how to make it something people want or need, how to market it in a way that is going to get people's attention,
Yeah.
how to then be able to do that on like a mass scale, how to be your own PR and your own marketing,
Yeah.
all that. And as you know, like as an artist, one of the biggest reasons that I went into being a creative is so I didn't have to do business because I don't have a business mind at all.
Yeah. Exactly. But then all of a sudden.
Then the world changed
Yep.
in the social media, all this stuff, and all of a sudden, if you want to be a successful creative, you have to have a business mindset as well.
I know.
because you're your own.
Yeah.
You're a casting director who was a teacher at my acting school when I was there. One of the things that she said we had like an actual class that was like the business of acting.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she said was you need to literally write out a chart for yourself. You as an actor or as an artist or whatever, but in this case as an actor, you are your own company
Yeah.
and you have to wear all of the hats. you're the CEO, you're the marketing manager, you're the CFO, you're your own PR, you're your own HR, and you have to like wear each hat at different times and figure out how your entire company works.
Yeah.
And I was always like, dude, that is not what I want to do. Albie's about to break this chessboard. What are you doing, buddy? Stop it. Sweet thing.
Yeah, man. That was like something that I was not expecting, when I got into it as well. I was like, and that's when like a team kind of comes into play. And I was like, oh, just get a team. But like, you kind of already have to like have a certain thing kind of going before a team kind of comes on, and like when I found that out, I was like, oh man, like you got to like figure out what your brand is and like what your like what's
Dude,
your your thing and like what's your like kind of typecast thing, and then you kind of got to do that for a minute, and then you can kind of break in. And I'm like, whoa, I just like everybody, we just want to do the thing.
Yeah.
Right. But it is this whole thing. It's like this whole model where, you kind of have to sit down, and that's where the discipline kind of comes in, where it's like, okay, like what are the things that I want to do and how am I going to get there? And, you have to really sit down and do that. And
build a vision.
And honestly, by doing that, kind of got me into like this producer mindset that I have found kind of interesting, because also it's, what's up, buddy? Go on in there. It's not like with the producer mindset, it's not just about like, oh, the business of it. It's very much like, oh, I know somebody that'd be perfect for this. It's like corralling the whole, the piece, and that's kind of like artistic in its own way. It's like a vision. You're like, oh, I know this guy, he's writing this script and this person would be perfect for it. Let's just like introduce them and like kind of like, oh, and I know this person makes music. And then, if like the set designer comes in, like, oh, we'll get Mickey's art up in here. That kind of like producerial mindset.
Yeah,
I've started to like find very fascinating.
Dude, that's sick. Yeah, I've always loved the sort of collaborative aspect of getting to put the pieces together for other people's projects.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's a weird business you have to navigate to be like, all right, I want to be an actor.
Yeah.
But in order to be an actor, I have to be a producer.
Yeah.
Because it's too out of my control to wait until I get cast in someone else's project.
Yeah.
So the best way to do it is to make my own project.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to make my own project, then I can cast myself in it.
Yeah.
I'll have a directing credit. I'll have a producing credit. I'll get to act. I'll meet an editor. I'll be able to put it into things. And then eventually, after like I've been a director and a producer for 5 years, maybe people will start asking me to be an actor.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
It's like you got to climb the mountain before you fucking climb the mountain. It's crazy. Yeah, it's like that's exactly why I kind of like also got into it. I'm just like, well, it was like during COVID, I was like, look, there's like really no acting going on. Like, let me write this script. And that's when I really started to kind of get more into writing. I'm like, I'll put myself in it. And then I was like, I know some people that would want to do it. And then that's when kind of like producing kind of came into my head, where I was just like, I didn't know I was doing it, but I was just doing it organically. Cause I was like, I just want to make shit.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're producing these paintings, like you're a producer on these paintings, you know what I mean? So it's like, I want to be in something, but like, I'm not going to wait for anybody, And so that's when like your producer mindset just like organically comes in. You're like, well, how would I make this happen?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, this person can come on board. And you're not like, I wasn't doing it like, oh, I'm a producer on this thing. It was just very much like, yeah, I just want to make this project.
This needs to happen and no one else is going to do it.
And if the title's producer, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to, let's just make this work. It doesn't fucking matter.
Here, before I ask this question, I want to ask you, when I say, because the title of this show is Art is Not Sacred.
Yes.
What does that do for you? What does that make you think of?
Art is not sacred?
Yeah.
Makes me think it's shared. Makes me think art is shared. Because when you were telling me to come on the podcast and I heard that it was art is not sacred, I was like, it's interesting because the act of it to me is kind of like sacred in a way. You know what I mean? Like visualize you in your flow state. Like that's kind of a sacred space for you, where you're like it's a catharsis thing. You're just like in this soulful, flowy expression, right? And that's a moment for you. That's like a sacred thing. But then I thought of like, well, the unsacred thing about it is that it's shared, you know? So it's kind of both. But that's just kind of like those two thoughts came into my mind when you said art is not sacred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad the last guest I had on disagreed with the sentiment vehemently, which is one of the reasons that I have as the title is that because it's kind of controversial as a title, but
yeah, it is.
For me, it's just very much like art is not meant to be ogled and praised and like held up on some pedestal. I think art at its very base level is a form of communication, and it's the only true reason why anybody does it is to communicate how they're feeling or how they want to be seen or what they need from the world.
Yeah.
And when you create art, all you're doing is having a conversation with someone else, you know?
Yeah.
And when people fuck up art when they start to look at, you know, like there's these pieces, you know, we have like the masters, like the best of the craft of whatever the thing is, and people look at them like they're these gods.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like you're missing the point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that these people should be revered.
Mm-hmm.
They should be respected
Yeah.
and admired, but I don't think that they should be held up to this like unattainable level.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, because in a way like that kind of like that puts like almost like this pressure or this idolization. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's like and it breeds this feeling of like I could never be that.
Right.
You know?
Right. But yeah, I guess it's just how you look at it, really. Like from kind of like what I said, like I think the moment that when you're creating something, there's something sacred between you and what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
But the expression of it and the outlet to like the world is meant to be shared, for sure. I totally agree with that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's see. Okay, what's a belief about art? About your art, about acting. What's a belief about acting that you used to hold that you have since let go of?
A belief about acting that I used to hold. Yeah, I think just what's kind of coming to mind, kind of like what we said a little earlier, was like I thought it was going to be more of like I'm in that world that I'm seeing. You know, as an audience member, I think I was so pulled to it because I'm like, I want to be in that world. I want to experience what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
But when it like kind of comes down to it, like especially for film, it's not that. You have a different experience entirely, which is still great, but it's not the experience you thought you were going to have.
Yeah.
So I think that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That I like that one because it is true. I feel like so many people go into acting because they want to fall into the imaginary space. And like,
you're inspired. You
Yeah.
know, you're inspired. You're like, you see this movie and you're like, whoa, I feel what they're going through, and I want to be in that. You know, like I want to be in that world, and then, you know, then you get a script or a story, and then you try to be in that world, and I think that's what brings great performances. You know, is because you're trying to be in that world for the audience and for yourself. I think the result is just organic and kind of a byproduct of you trying to be as much in that world as possible.
Yeah.
But is it actually attainable? I don't know.
Yeah. If you had any advice for Landon of 10 years ago, or Landon right at the beginning of this journey, what would you say to him?
Oh, go all in. Dive all in, man. Like wherever you're at that moment, just fucking go 110% as much as you can, and don't be afraid to fail. Don't use that as an excuse to be lazy, but go in and as if you're not going to fail, but don't let failure get in the way of what you ultimately want to do. I think I could have learned that lesson a little bit earlier, but hey, here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here you are.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
Yeah, man.
It's awesome to get to see you. I mean, I none of you guys know this, but I haven't seen you since you were riding on a horse, and I was chasing you on the back of an ATV with a drone and a camera in the back
Man.
of the thing. I think
Maryland.
it's the last time we saw each other. Yeah.
Right, we shot
on a
that in
ranch
Maryland.
Maryland.
Oh man, riding horses.
Yeah, it's like in the 1800s or something.
Yeah,
They said.
man. Oh man, what a good memory, man.
Yeah,
and
that was an amazing experience.
I love that. I love that music video / short film / just full outdoors experience with you guys.
Well, that's
yeah,
the
it was a good one.
magic. That's the magic of doing this kind of art, acting and making film and all that. Is that like you were saying, everybody's going to see the project, but
Mm-hmm.
no one is going to remember the nights where like it was torrential downpour and you were stuck in your tent.
Yeah.
And everything got destroyed, and then everyone's covered in mud, and we haven't showered in a week. And
Yeah.
we're learning how to ride these horses, and we have to corral like 150 cows out of the shot, like all this ridiculous shit that like no one will ever know.
Dude.
But it was like the most. It was better than the final product to me. Was the
Yeah,
experience
the
of
full
making it,
experience.
you
We
know?
were there for like a week, man.
Yeah, dude, living in a tent in the backyard of some dude's ranch.
That was such an incredible experience, man. I love the finished product, and that was like another testament to like talk about real quick before we end is like, bringing all of our friends in that are super talented and super committed in what they're doing, like you as a director, me as an actor, Dylan as a singer-songwriter, and bringing all those people in together to create something. And like, that's all of us jumbled up, and that's the product,
Yeah, dude, and
which is cool.
It's crazy too, because like we were saying before, when you have a group of people who all love to do whatever it is that they do, the second you put them together, like you are bound to create something beautiful.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, And I think the greatest gift that I've gotten from Dylan really is getting to meet people like you who have proven that like it doesn't matter how long the road is, how rough it gets, how exhausting it might be, who you have to do it with, if you have to do it alone for a time. When you love something enough, you just do it.
Yeah,
and you
that's
find
the
the
thing.
people who love it just as much.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're surrounded by a group of people who are like reminding you every day that this thing that you're doing is worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that community.
Yeah, it's that community. I mean, Dylan told me the first time that he was telling me about you, he was like, dude, I never thought that I would want to live in LA until I went out and saw Landon and his community that he built there.
Yeah.
He was like, I could do it if it was those people.
Yeah. And that's what's important, man, is you got to surround yourself with, you got to keep your group like small and tight, that's the thing. And you got to keep surrounding yourself with like-minded people. And also, like, not to say that you shouldn't surround yourself with people that challenge your ways of thinking, but that's what I mean is like, you surround yourself with like-minded people that are into talking about things that are challenging you constantly, and the consistency of that, because you are what you eat, you are what you surround yourself by, and you are what you do. So like,
you are what you do.
Yeah.
That is such a good ending sentiment, because like everybody says that they want to be something.
Yeah.
They want to do something. They want to try something. They're doing this, but they really want to, like, I would really love to do that. So, then do it.
Then do it. Do the thing, man.
Do it. You only
Yeah.
get one chance at this.
Exactly.
I wish I took all of this more seriously when I was 18.
Yeah.
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 And now at 30, I'm like, oh, I think I've finally figured it out.
Yeah.
If you want to do a thing,
Yeah.
do it. So it will be the most embarrassing thing in the world if you fail, because
Yeah.
you did all of it. You gave it your all.
You have to.
And every single person who watches you fail at the thing that you tried to do and they never did is going to be enamored by the dedication and the fucking like passion that you put into it. And your failure is the greatest success that you'll ever have every time you do it.
Yeah.
Because it's inspiration.
Totally.
Every person that I know that has inspired me and who's more successful than I am and like is doing these things that they have failed so many times publicly. It's been ridiculous to watch. And every time they're like, that did not work.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something.
We got to get over
harder
that
now.
shit. You know what I mean? We got to try something. If it doesn't work, just immediately be like, cool, on to the next thing. Or on to the next idea or on to the next whatever. But yeah.
I saw a funny meme the other day that was literally like, it was split in half horizontally, and so it's like a stick figure on both sides here.
Yeah.
And it said like passion on both sides, and then over here it said like cool.
Yeah.
And then in the middle was this big chasm that said cringe.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
You saw that?
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
don't know if it was passion or
Yeah.
whatever, but it was like this huge, like, you're gonna look stupid
Yeah.
for so long before you look cool.
Yeah,
doing the
yeah.
thing that you do.
And the guy that looking cool ain't even ever crossing the bridge.
He's never getting over there.
No, exactly. Yeah.
You
So you fucking got to go through it, man.
Yeah, it's so
you
true.
have to. And the quicker we could just let that go, just fucking do it, which is kind of like relieving in a way because I'm like, oh, I don't have to think about it, how I look or how I'm appearing or how I'm being perceived. I'm just going to fucking do it.
Yeah, well, because like how I look
So
and
much
how
pressure.
I'm being perceived to who?
Yeah,
to a bunch
exactly.
of people I don't know and have never
It's
met.
really just you judging yourself.
I have a great
That's
group
it.
of friends.
Yeah.
People that I know love me no matter how stupid I look.
Yeah, man.
I have a good family that I know loves me no matter how stupid I look. The only people who are going to think I look stupid are people I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't have, if we didn't live in this crazy social media world, I wouldn't even know that they didn't like me in the first place.
Exactly.
So why do I care if I do know?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. And
No.
it's just so much more fun to look stupid doing something than to look cool doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's almost more embarrassing when you kind of like half fail. You know what I mean? You're kind of like,
You're like,
oh,
I never
I'll
expected
kind
it
of
to
like,
work.
yeah, I'll kind of commit, and then you like half-ass something. Like if you're gonna like commit and look goofy as fuck, commit.
Dude, it looks
know?
so cool to look goofy when you commit.
Dude, yeah. And then, but like if you're like half committing where you're like gonna go into this line or this song or whatever, and you're kind of like, it just makes it awkward. You're like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's just, either you're doing this or you're doing this. But right in the middle, that's something.
It's not interesting.
No, just fucking one or the other. That's it.
Dude,
Hey, man.
I love you, man.
Love you too,
I really
brother.
appreciate this.
Yeah, man.
If there's anything that, if people could follow your journey or anything you want to shout out, your socials or anything like that, anything that you're doing that's coming up, feel free.
Yeah. I look me up on my name on Instagram, but really, I started this thing called One Take Play on Instagram. It's something that we started like a year and a half ago, and then we're really vamping up right now. But what it is essentially is we take short plays and we film them in real time in real locations, and it's all on Instagram Live. You don't go and see it; you just watch it on Instagram Live. So it's like you're coming into a world and you're viewing someone's experience that you're not supposed to be viewing. So it's all shot live on Instagram Live. It's a short play, about 10, 15 minutes. We do one every month. New stories. But yeah, you can check us out on Instagram, One Take Play.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, man.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. This is episode 2 of Art is Not Sacred with Landon. And, you'll see this in a couple of days when I actually put it out. But after that, we'll have some more awesome people. And eventually we'll get to have Landon's beautiful partner on in the future, who is an incredible artist. And she doesn't know that I'm telling her that she's coming on yet. So when you see this, you'll find out that you're going to be coming on the show.
That'll be a great episode. She's got a lot to share.
Cool. See you guys.